On this episode, we have our first guest. We go over weight training and what not to eat at Taco Bell.
Nothing.
What's up, everybody? This is Ray Sanders, and this is episode number 9 of Coach Knows Best. So we're here with our first guest ever. This is my dear brother, Anthony Sanders. He was unfortunately here because of a funeral that we had to, or that we got to attend today. But he actually does his own thing. He has his own coaching that he does. He'll talk about it in a second. He does NSA powerlifting. So he's kind of bulked up. He's all hulked out. So he actually does coaching up there. He also competes. Growing up, obviously, we played all kinds of different sports together and did what we do. But he was also a soccer player. He's been watching the show. I kind of talked to him about some of the different aspects as far as it pertains to coaching and mentoring and on and on. And so even though he doesn't necessarily do anything with soccer now, he's definitely still involved with nutrition and lifting and weight training and all that stuff. And so I'm really pumped to
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
It's kind of weird, right? Like we're trying to do like this little show thing. We got Caesar. We got another Hispanic here that's going to be a little, this is like our audience. It's great.
Yeah, we'll be talking to them as well as to all of you.
That's right. So, tell us a little bit about yourself. Tell us about NSA powerlifting. Tell us about what you do.
Okay, so NSA Powerlifting is actually a part of NSA Barbell Club, which is ran by a friend of mine, Richard Lazaro. We can drop some Instagram tags after this so you guys can see all the stuff where we're at.
Tag them up, Caesar.
And what we do is, so we actually coach all aspects of strength and conditioning. So we have Olympic weightlifters, we have a CrossFit coach, believe it or not.
So my brother's really anti-CrossFit, and I did CrossFit, I almost died, and I tried to give him a hard time about it, but apparently they got CrossFit coaches now, it's good.
Yeah, and they're really great. Anthony Gonzalez, shout out, we'll tag him too. Outstanding athlete himself. Myself, I do powerlifting. And then Jordan Cantrell, if you haven't heard of him, if you're not in the weightlifting world, you probably haven't. He is actually the American Open champion in his weight class, and he is our Olympic weightlifting coach. So we have some street cred there. He'll probably be a 2020 Olympic guy, or realistically, he's excellent. So between all of us, we have a couple of female coaches too. Callie does gymnastics, and so we really do. We hit all aspects of strength and conditioning.
So it's crazy, dude. So you still compete though, too,
Correct,
right?
correct.
And so you do open competitions, over 40 competitions, and you won recently, right?
Yeah, so I still compete in the open divisions, which is anything from 18 on up. You can even get some junior powerlifters in there if they want to compete against the big boys.
Yeah.
And now, since I've turned 40 last year, I do compete in the over 40 division. Yeah, my most recent meet was a regional meet up in Northern California, and I won for my weight class, and I won basically across the board, PRs across the board, and won everything I was entered into, best lifter and all that.
So let me put this into perspective for some of you. When my brother was in junior high, he was scrawny. He played American football, and he had to put rocks in his shorts in order to make weight.
It's a true story.
So now, as an adult, and he's doing all this powerlifting junk, and I start seeing stuff on Instagram, and I'm like, dude, what the crap? Like, he's huge, and don't be deceived, but right now, like when he's lifting, he's even bigger. So I'm really, really impressed with that. And so obviously, certainly depending upon what your guys' background is or what it is that you're looking for, weightlifting, strength training, we're going to talk about a little bit of that today, a little bit of nutritional stuff, some soccer stuff, but how is all of that applicable to youth and to soccer players and on, right? Because we don't all necessarily, we all have different goals as it pertains to particular weight training. So that being said, let's rock and roll and get into the questions.
What type of strength or conditioning training would you recommend for a youth soccer player?
So really quick, so within all of this, right, I remember being in high school and then being scared that I was going to work out too much and I was going to be too big.
Right.
And so that was something that I was always worried about. Then while at the same time, you see like someone like Cristiano Ronaldo who like his legs are just like tree trunks. So
Jacked.
yeah, so what type of overall strength training would you say, and maybe apply it to some different age groups like
For sure.
youth or genders and all that?
So great question. And first, let me just say they need to do something. They need to do some kind of strength and conditioning. There's been numerous studies, and we could go at them all day and tag them all in there, but it's not really worth it. You can go out and do the research for yourself. There is no reason why you as an athlete from probably about 12 is probably a good starting point to really get into some resistance training, but from then on, you should be doing some sort of resistance training. Go ahead.
This is a more important question for a guy who's short. I've heard that if you work out too young, that it stunts your growth. Is that
100%
true?
not true. Not
true.
Not
It's a
true at
myth.
all. It is a myth.
The Mythbusters here on Coach Knows
You
Best.
heard it first.
Yeah.
Actually, not first. It's
Right.
been out
Google
for quite a
told
while.
me to. Yeah.
That's been out for a while,
So-
but that's
so-
a urban legend. Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. Okay, sorry. So keep going.
No, that's fine.
But would you? But you're
before-
saying at 12. So I'm sorry. So I'm gonna keep interrupting you. So at 12 years old, why at 12?
I was just picking a general
Sure,
age.
sure, but-
That's about when I started around junior high.
Yeah.
6th grade, somewhere in there. I think the reason that's a good focus is because prior to that, you can be doing a lot of other things that don't necessarily involve a barbell, because you don't really know what you want to do when you're that young.
Yeah.
If you already made that choice on what you're going to do, that could dictate that you could get under the barbell for some things or use some free weights. However, like before then, it's kind of hard to say I'm going to be specifically specialized in this one discipline. So
Yeah.
that's the only reason I said 12. If you're, there's a couple famous power lifters. It doesn't matter to your crowd, but one guy has his son. He started at 8. Now, granted, he's got like basically a PVC pipe with some 5-pound weights on the outside,
Right.
something super light, and he's teaching more technique. But that goes also to like development leagues like you guys do. So you start with those, U6s, U5s, even like, hey, here's some basic skills. So that's what
Yeah.
they're starting with. Now 12 up, I think barbell training is probably essential if you want to hit that next level. A lot
So
of
what's barbell training? That's what that
barbell training is anything with a barbell and some weights on it. Like you see in the gym, the free weights. You could do some machines and the cables and everything. Again, you see in a commercial gym, but barbell training, to me at least, is all your big lifts, your squat, your bench, your deadlift. Even your clean and jerk and your snatch, if you're into Olympic weightlifting, those are a lot more technical. I don't know about necessarily getting into those for somebody who's not going to go down that road. But then certainly some free weight training, the old curls for the girls, anything like that. That's always
Sun's out, guns out.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and that's
curls for
always
the
the
girls,
saying.
I like it.
You come up and you're like, well, how much you bench, bro? That's always like, oh, how much
Yeah.
do you bench? How much? And these guys do a lot of upper body training.
Yeah.
That's kind of the bro split, but
So we should teach our kids to curl for girls.
absolutely,
Interesting.
at least
So-
the boys.
That's right. So
Sorry, we're straight here.
So in other words, though, so how about, so you're saying that they should start getting into some of these different types of things as far as the barbells, working out with actual weights, and what about the type of program? Like, what would you say when it comes to physical training, right? Like you do the heaviest weight you can for five times versus
Right.
do it 20 times or 20 reps, 5 sets or some scenarios like that.
A lot of that's going to be predicated on what they want to do. So one of the first things that I do when I take on a new athlete, I very rarely take clients. You will hear me say that a lot because I don't believe in, I can't coach a client. Like that's very difficult for me. Like I need to coach an athlete. I need to have someone with that competitive mindset. So when I take on a new athlete, the first question, my questionnaire says, what are your goals with me specifically? Like
Yeah.
that will dictate that answer for you too. So what are your goals specifically for you? It's they want to be a better soccer player.
Right.
So that program is going to be very different than what I would do for a weightlifter. In this case, for our audience, things I would recommend definitely would be squats. We want to play on their strengths that are probably already going to have strong legs, right? But we also want to build up their weaknesses. So I definitely like compound movements. So your squat and your deadlift, that should be a part of every program. If they want to bench and get a little bit bigger in the upper body, I don't think that would hurt. Again, they don't need to go, 4 or 5 times body weight, right?
Right.
They could probably be happy getting maybe 1 times body weight. That's a good marker for it. So, for you weighing whatever you weigh, we'll just say 185.
Is chubby a weight?
Is chubby a weight? It is.
Yeah.
I'll just use myself for a better example. So I know I weigh right now around 235. So I should be able to at least do my body weight to be fit
Yeah.
as far as a bench for 235.
Right.
Now, obviously for me, because I specialize in a strength sport, I need to be well beyond that. For somebody who playing soccer, I think a body weight benching for multiple reps would probably be ideal. Any other kind of splits like that they want to do just for aesthetic purposes would be fine. But you have to start thinking, and this is where you as a parent would need to get with a coach to say, what strengths can I enhance for my son or daughter when they're playing? And that's difficult. That's going to be difficult for you, or unless you have a strength and conditioning coach. That's why these guys get paid a lot of money at the college level, is because they get with the coaches and they see, okay, we're dealing with this specific athlete. Here's what we need to make them better at, and so they make that program around that person. They definitely should not be going heavy. Like that's not smart for a soccer player. You don't want to put that stress on their body to go super heavy. So for example, we were talking about squats earlier, right? I love to squat heavy. That's one of my favorite things. But you should never have one of your athletes squatting like, over 500 pounds.
Yeah, no. We have like 13-year-old boys.
Yeah, again.
They're getting cans and going in the garage and stuff.
Yeah.
So that's what we're trying to gauge on what they should or shouldn't do.
Yeah, because there's a lot of
But what they
technique
need, right? Like I think that the big thing when it comes to like some of the competitive, when it comes to like lifting weights and conditioning and strength is how do you get the competitive advantage in a particular area,
Precisely.
right?
Precisely.
So that's where it's like something that is. But then you'll have these guys that they're just going in there and they're trying to look good for girls, and so which is fine. If it's going to be something, that's going to give them some type of a competitive advantage. So I would say, overall, because we got some other questions that will kind of overlap within this. I would say overall that at the very least, when we talk about the competitive advantage, that kids need to start thinking about that, doing that, putting in the time, being dedicated, creating some type of a program where they actually are lifting weights.
100%.
Certainly they need to be doing things that are more applicable to the soccer player, right? So bench press or some of those things might not be as valuable as squats, making sure that you're working out all components. Not to say that bench press doesn't help, right? But shoulders, arms, back, some of these different types of things, absolutely your core needs to be strong. And so I think that the type of strength and conditioning training, though, would not be to bulk. It would be to create some type of actual strength behind what it is that you're doing, and not just be
Right.
running and slowing down.
It's a
and
great
things of that
point. So
nature.
you do have it's an economic principle, the law of diminishing returns, right? You're going to get to a certain point where you're going to get too big for your sport.
Right.
For me, that's not the case. I can just continue to get big. Now I'm going to continue to compete against bigger guys. So for me, that's unending.
Right.
For a soccer player, yeah, I think at a certain point you can get too big, where now you're sacrificing mobility, you're sacrificing conditioning. Soccer's very particular in that, right? You have to be conditioned to be able to run for a full game, 90 minutes. Your field's 120 yards long. It's much longer than any other field that's out there.
Yeah.
I would say really the only thing that even compares to that would be something like Australian rules football or rugby, where you have that such a big length. I hear a lot of people say basketball too, but it's such a small sport. I don't think it applies. So, but in doing that, you also have to sprint. It's not just jogging the whole time, right? You have to be able to have quick bursts of speed and be explosive. And you have to do all these specialized things for soccer in itself. So again, your strength and conditioning program should lend it to that. And going out right now and playing soccer at 240 pounds, a few years back, and I wasn't quite this, it was probably about 220, I played an alumni game, and it was difficult. And I told the other coaches who were former players, if they look at it, I got about 3 long runs in me for the game.
Yeah.
Like that's not like per quarter, that's going to be it. And sure enough, I was about right, about 3 or 4 long runs, and like, for God's sake, play to my feet, please. I don't have time for all this.
Yeah.
So it's very difficult to be big and do that. However, we've seen it over the years. They had people, El Tanque, they had players that were bigger, and it's great going against a 50-50 ball. Someone your size, I'm gonna have to lean into you a little bit versus someone like Caesar. No offense, but like I'll just run him over. Like it's easy because he's small.
Not only is he small, he has bad knees.
That's even.
That's
why
not
does
very
he
nice.
have bad knees? And
Yeah.
why does he have bad knees? Probably because of a lack of a proper strength and conditioning program, which actually is very good for preventing injuries.
Yep.
It's good squats, good technique, and that's the only thing I would definitely caution against. Is you're going to go out there, you're going to look at these and there's so much out there, so much data out there, so many YouTube videos, so many Instagrams. You're going to be like, oh, I want to do what this guy does or that guy does. Be careful what you wish. Do your research and see what's really helping. See what I would say. Try to see what college level teams are doing. Don't try to look at what the pros are doing because it's probably a little too advanced for where you're at. But look at what college and maybe even some high schools. We don't really have it out here. Some other clubs might even have strength and conditioning coaches, and look for it being specific to you. Again, it should be something probably lower body centric, and the weights should be moderate. But it also should involve something like plyometrics, maybe some box jumps.
Yeah.
I even hate to say
I was
it.
going to ask you about that. What about
Probably something closer to a CrossFit, except a little more controlled.
So what do you think about that? So I want to get to the next question, but what do you think about that? So we have we'll do a lot of whatever, like jumping lunges and box squat types of aspects or whatever it may be. I don't know what the terms are, but like I'm a star. It's like all these explosion things where they're jumping. And so what do you think as far as those types of things go?
For the sport of soccer, I think that's a great idea to build that explosive speed because you're going to need to have that quick, off the ball or to the ball movements. So those are great for explosive speed in that. But you have to remember what gives you that explosive speed is muscle at the end of the day. You cannot
That
tell
doesn't
me,
build muscle? Because when I do the demos, I'm sore the next day.
Not necessarily. No, that's not building muscle.
What is it doing?
It's building muscle endurance, but it's not really building strength. So there's a difference between, just because you're sore doesn't mean you worked out either. They call that the DOMS, right? Daily or delayed onset muscle soreness. DOMS. That comes from working out, but it's probably because of movement that you either haven't done for a while, or that you probably didn't do correctly. And
There's
in
a
our
high
case,
probability of that as well.
as we get older, you know, in our case, we're not doing it as often. So yeah, we will create soreness. But like squats, I do squats twice a week, every day, like basically all year. In order for me to get sore from squats, the amount of volume I have to do is an incredible amount. We're talking hundreds of reps.
So you're not sore anymore?
Not really, no. Not for squats.
Really quick, let's transition. What's your max squat?
Right now my max squat is 605 in the gym.
605 pounds?
585 on the platform.
I don't even know what that means. All right, sweet. Next question.
What do you think about strength and conditioning coaches?
Cool. So I like this question because earlier you mentioned that maybe there was other clubs that have like sports and conditioning coaches, and we for sure don't in our club. I don't really know of any clubs in our community that do, and none that are like actually like I could look up on YouTube and make a kid throw up, right? Like I could make him run and make his legs hurt that he's not really sore, but he got DOMS. Or something
ironically, that was a marker of a good workout back in the day, right? Oh, were you puking? Were you?
Yeah.
That's not.
I puked at CrossFit.
Yeah, that's not necessarily a good thing.
So my question for you, so we have a lot of good programs in town. A3 is really good. I know Coombs and Fitness is out there. They're pretty good. A3 is the one that I think a lot of our top athletes at our club have gone to. Bryson Hankins as an example, and many others. There's Car Elite and David Carr and all those guys, they do that. But so anyway, so what do you think about that? Because we're, you know, some of these parents like Caesar, he probably is not going to go to A3, right? His poor little knees. But that being said, there might be some parents out there that are thinking about doing something like that, but it's an investment. Those things cost money.
Sure.
So what do you recommend or think as it pertains to that?
And first and foremost,
Do you think it's a scam? Because they're pretty expensive.
I would go back to what you just said. You know, what are your goals for your kids? It's a big investment to decide to do that. Some could think it's a scam, and honestly, and I hate to say the pedigree is in their certification, because you can have bad coaches who have a good certification.
So you're saying there could be A licensed coaches in soccer that aren't good, and E licensed coaches that are good.
Imagine that, right?
Yeah.
It's all about what you put into it and what you want to do with it. More often than not, if they're running a successful business, they probably are certified and know what they're doing. I would just say, yes, it's a good idea if you can afford that investment, and you truly are with your athlete, your student athlete, and you want them to go to that next level. I think that's one of the things that's probably missing from a lot of mediocre competitive players to elite players. Like they're putting in the extra hours, the extra reps. In your case, you know, they're putting in extra hours after training or on another day that you don't necessarily have training to master that skill. And then they're putting the addition, because in this case it's an addition to their training. They're putting strength and conditioning in there. You're never going to hear a college coach or a professional coach or anybody for that matter go, "Oh no, I don't want that kid. He's too strong."
Right. Too fit.
No, he's too fit. He can run for too long.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's never going to happen. Those are always things you can do, and you can always do better.
Right.
The most fit person, the strongest guy in your sport, he can always be a little bit stronger. Again, to a certain level, right? You can't get too big, too bulky, but definitely sport-specific strength. So those things are a good idea. I say just research them out. And, you know, again, that money could be too much. I hate to say it, but you know, all your kids aren't going to be professional soccer players. We're not going to have like we were talking about at lunch. Like, why have we not had a kid from the U.S. play for Barcelona or Real Madrid? Well, they're not putting in the same amount of hours. They're putting in the same work.
Yeah.
We have yet to have that genetic code in that person that's that good, and that work ethic to follow.
Yeah, all of it collectively, right?
Right.
Yeah.
We may one day we can see it in our lifetime.
The academies, the coaching,
Absolutely.
everything collectively.
Right.
So we have to be practical.
Right. Look at your kid, and if your kid's on a B team, you know, I don't think spending the money on strength and conditioning is a good idea.
What if they're on a B team, but maybe the speed is something that's holding them back? So, like as an example, my son, your nephew, charming guy, named Anthony.
Can't go
middle
wrong.
name after you.
Can't go wrong.
So I love the guy, super coachable, great character, great work ethic, decent technically, can't kick very hard compared to the other kids his age, and is pretty slow. So he plays on our B team. But I've been thinking about putting him in A3 because I don't spend quality time with him. So I was thinking about putting him in A3 or Coons and Fitness or something along those lines. But I wanted to see what your thoughts were.
Yeah, I think that could be
like he's 9 too.
That could be applicable.
9.
I know, crazy, right?
Well, I don't know. I thought maybe it was 8 or 10. I don't know. That's what I meant.
It could be applicable in that case if you're willing to not only spend that money, make that dedication, strength, speed, even kicking strength could be trained up.
Yeah.
To a certain point.
Puberty too. That helps.
That'll help too.
Yeah.
But everything's to a certain point, right?
Yeah.
I can only lift X amount of weight. I don't know what that is yet. I'm still increasing over the years. I don't know what that maximum amount is where I can get. I'm sure going to try to test that, right?
Right.
It's probably going to be the same for Lil Ray. Is he can only be so fast. He can be taught. He can be taught, and he can learn quicker feet. Things like plyometrics. There's tons of drills for that. Building the strength in his legs, and literally teaching him how to run.
Yeah.
Believe it or not, people, running is a skill. Like you can be taught how to run.
Oh, he runs horribly.
Yeah.
You should see his butt. You should see his butt. It's like he goes side to side and he's trying to run forward. Super flat-footed. I talked to him about being on his toes.
Yeah.
It's kind of embarrassing.
So yeah, there's some technique you can do, and then once you have the perfected technique, then you practice that perfected technique over and over again.
Right.
Right. And once you do that, you can develop. I mean, we certainly know we can develop speed to a certain point.
Right.
So I think it would be worth it if you're worth putting the time, and really it's going to be on Ray if he's willing to put in the time, right?
100%.
Because we can pay the money, we can set you guys all up for that.
But when he goes, he's got to work.
Absolutely.
Not just go through the motions.
Absolutely. He's got to want it.
Yeah, so I think that the bottom line is, when it comes down to this issue, and people ask me all the time, should I do A3, should I do Coons and Fitness, or other things, right? I think that the bottom line is that your kid may not ever be as fast as the fastest kid on the team. So just because that kid does A3 doesn't mean that you necessarily need to have your kid do A3. But I think the most important thing is let's say if I use Little Ray as the example, maybe he's never going to become the fastest kid on the team, but is he the fastest that he could possibly be through maximizing his strength within his genetic code, his technique? Is it better? Can we improve on it? And so on and so forth. So I feel that if you have the money, even though we are a soccer specific, we want to work on all aspects soccer. If you have the money, the time, the resources, parent involvement, willing to drive them, I always have recommended doing some type of strength and conditioning coach. So it's good.
Yep.
Cool. Next question.
What type of diet should my kid have, or what type of food should my kid be eating?
So I'll never forget when I was coaching, there was this kid, I'll remain nameless, he's not around anymore, but so there was a kid that I coached, super good, chubby little guy, right? Little butterball looking kid. And he was like 7, 8, 9 years old. And literally after the game, he would have like a king size bag of Doritos. And he'd be walking around the field, and like it was borderline because he would just be holding it to his side, and it was touching the ground like he's just dragging around this bag of Doritos. So he's a cute little guy, little chubby guy. He used to grab his cheeks all the time, but he definitely didn't make it in soccer. And so I think that one of the things as it pertains to diet and what kids should be eating is that kids maybe should still be kids. Another story of like this lady that was like she went nuts, right? Because her kid ate a cookie and she flipped out. So where's the balance between that, if there is any? What do you recommend as it pertains to diet, etc.?
Man, that's a tough one.
It's broad. It's broad. And we're already talking a lot, so we need to sum this up.
I'll start with this again. It's going to be specific to your goals, what you want to do with that kid. Funny to keep on bringing that up.
Soccer. What if there's soccer though? There's a soccer player.
Yeah.
It's a 16-year-old boy.
Ooh, okay. You're giving me
Okay.
specifics.
Yeah.
Okay.
So he's 16-year-old boy. He's kind of scrawny. He's doing weightlifting. He's starting to try to get stronger. He gets pushed off the ball a lot.
Okay.
Right. Somebody told him he needs to be eating like a horse every day.
That's about enough data. First and foremost, a lot of calories. He should be in a caloric surplus, meaning if he needs for his body just to exist, we call that your basal metabolic rate, your BMR. So if his BMR is say somewhere around 2,500 calories, he's probably going to need to plus that up by 5 to maybe even 1,000 calories. So he should be at the 3,000 to maybe even 3,500 calorie mark.
Right.
Especially being 16. 16, his metabolism is going to be through the roof. His testosterone is going to be through the roof. It's the time to really strike while the iron's hot. He has a great metabolism for it. You should be shoving all sorts of food down his throat.
So like, kind of like, I mean, it sounds cheesy, but sincerely, like Michael Phelps used to consume like 25,000 calories because of the amount that he burned,
So
right?
he says. So he says.
So he says, I don't know, maybe it was 15,000, I don't know.
I've tried to eat about 8,000 calories a day before when I was bulking and could not. Like
It's hard.
It's a lot more difficult than people think. Like, oh, that would be
Sounds
great.
fun though.
No,
No.
it's really not. It really
I love
is.
cookies.
So
So,
it can't come from cookies though. That's
yeah, so that's
my
where I was
next
going with that, yeah. So my question is like, a kid, that 16-year-old boy, or even girl for that matter, and they're consuming all these calories, but so then their mindset, they're like, dude, just eating a bunch of
Right,
junk food.
right.
What does that look like versus?
Well, boy and
something
girl
else?
would be different as far as what we would do for their caloric needs. I mean, we store body fat different biochemistry. So, besides that fact, we're staying with a 16-year-old boy. So, say we need if it exists nutrition as a pyramid, the largest part of this pyramid, 70% of it, is probably your calories in versus out. Is he in a calorie surplus or deficit or eucaloric or the same? So is he eating just enough to maintain body weight? Is he eating a surplus to gain body weight, or is he not eating enough and he's losing body weight? So first and foremost, let's make sure he's at calorie surplus. And then after that becomes your macronutrients, which is your carbs, your protein, and fat. Are you eating them in enough quantity and in the right percentages that you're going to gain? So in this case, you would probably want a little more protein, but not much, almost the same as carbs, probably about a 40-40. So 40% carbs, 40% protein, and probably fat somewhere around the 20-ish%. You can manipulate those numbers a little within 5-10%, but I'm sure there's people out there, I should be at 45-35. The point is that he should be eating the bulk of their food should be protein and carbs. The carbs are going to fuel the workouts and fuel all the stuff that he's doing, and the protein is going to help synthesize, build that new muscle.
No keto diets for a 16-year-old.
Probably not the best idea. Any diet that is restrictive is probably not a good idea for a kid, and even adults. That should be it's going to be very specific of when they want to do that. I'm very apprehensive to recommend try an Atkins, try a keto, try a XYZ, put anything in their diet, because a diet means you're restricting on some sort of food. You should eat a balanced diet. Like if you really wanted to say, you could call the nutrition advice that I give, you could probably call it flexible dieting maybe, or if it fits your macros, but it's not truly if it fits your macros, because those people will be like, oh, this food is 40-40-20, that's my macros, I can eat it.
So let me ask you
what it
this.
is.
Let's try to make it as applicable as we possibly can, and let's break it down because people don't even understand what you're talking about right now. So especially not a 16-year-old boy.
I can break it down for 16-year-olds.
So I guess my question is like when it comes to like the 40% this, 40% that, give me as rapid fire as you possibly can. What should he eat for breakfast, lunch, comes home? Like what do you think about triple decker sandwiches, and then like big bowls of cereal, and then pizza for dinner? You remember that?
Cereal.
Yeah, dude, those
I
are
used to
great.
eat like a salad bowl
Yeah,
full of cereal and about half a gallon of milk at that age.
yeah, yeah.
And I would still be like 150 pounds.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
That's where I learned it.
Yeah.
I literally got the bigger bowl because you did, and then I would eat triple decker sandwiches
Yeah.
when I get home. So, but I got
none
a
of
little
that
chubby in the
helps.
face, and it never went away. So yeah, so my question would be: is something very applicable?
Yeah.
These kids are going to be at school where they're getting whatever they offer at school today.
I would say don't eat at school.
Well,
First of all,
what if they got it? Like let's try it.
Yeah, okay, you have to.
Let's figure it out.
if you can't meal prep, which actually is usually
I'm pretty sure.
no.
Do you know what meal
Hear me
prep
out.
means?
Hear me out. Hear me out.
Caesar doesn't even know what meal
Hear
prep
me
means.
out.
Just
If
say
you
it in
can't-
Spanish, so he understands.
No. If you can't meal prep, that's very good. He speaks
I
English
know,
quite well.
barely.
If
He's
you
good.
can't meal prep,
This is for the ESL.
if you can't meal prep,
Yeah.
that's difficult. You should try to achieve meal prep, which, believe it or not, is usually a lot cheaper, no matter where you're.
To meal prep is cheaper?
Oh, substantially.
Yeah.
A basic meal prep meal is going to be a couple bucks as opposed to
Cheaper than what though? Than eating out?
Oh,
Oh
yeah.
yeah. Yeah, I'm with that. I'm with that.
School lunch, I don't know. It depends. Honestly, if they are on like free and reduced lunch, it can't be free.
Sure, yeah. So, but I'm gonna
So what
say
they
that.
want to look for, if you had a plate right here in front of you, right? Here's a plate, size of my hand, so it's a kind of a small plate, real fat.
Yeah.
Half of that plate, one half should be some sort of vegetable, some sort of leafy green vegetable, be broccoli, something like that. Whatever they're serving, vegetable medley in the cafeteria, if you will, it should be about that.
Veggies.
A quarter of it should be a protein, a healthy, lean protein. Chicken breast is king when it
What if
comes
they
to
eat
that.
hamburger though?
Hamburger
Like,
would
this
be
is
okay.
kids running miles
You
every
can't
day.
be hamburger every day.
Yeah.
You got to mix it up. Can't be hamburger every day. So shoot for a lean chicken breast, and if you throw a hamburger in there every once in a while, or some other lean cuts of meat, a ribeye, something like that.
For lunch at high school?
You said in
ribeye?
general.
Yeah, give me faster. So I'm at Taco
Faster.
Bell. What do I eat?
Nothing. You don't eat a taco. There you go. That's the problem.
Yeah.
If you're gonna take the time to go to Taco Bell and spend $10 or a $5
But it's their dad's $10.
I don't care.
Why are you hurting me?
I don't care. If you're gonna take the time to go to Taco Bell to do that, you had time to prep something at home. You really did. Yes, you did. Yes,
I don't
you did.
think. I think
That's an
you
excuse.
overestimate these
That's
kids.
an excuse.
It is an excuse. I agree. And if they were truly dedicated, I get it. But we're trying to make it like how
Make
can
better
they-
decisions.
Okay, if you're at Jack in the Box, they
Oh,
have salads there.
You
Can
shouldn't
you
be
get-
eating fast food.
Could I
No,
get?
let's do- you shouldn't be
Let me
eating
ask you
fast
this: you shouldn't. You shouldn't. Can I get a salad, right? Like the Southwestern salad. I think they have those at Jack in the Box. And then you get like a hamburger patty. So I'm gonna get like a jumbo jack with no bread, and then chop it up and throw it on the salad. Does that work?
Like
With a water.
With a water. No dressing. No cheese.
What?
They're 2-calorie dense. That's the problem with all these fast foods and all this stuff nowadays, right? It's not that you can't eat a ho-ho.
Yeah.
That ho-ho's not going to kill your diet. It's that a little ho-ho,
Cupcakes, Twinkies.
whatever you want to say,
Mm-hmm.
that little
I
thing
love
right
those
there is 250 calories, and
Yeah.
you're going to, what are you getting?
It's not
out
gonna
of
fill
that?
you up.
No, not at all.
Yeah,
Why
yeah.
would it?
Right.
Compare that to 250 calories of vegetables. 250 calorie vegetables is like 3 cups of vegetables.
Yeah.
It's an incredible amount of food, right?
Yeah.
350 or 250 calories of chicken. I don't even know what that is. I mean, chicken's. It would be a lot of chicken. Like we're talking like over a pound of chicken.
Yeah.
It's an incredible amount of food. So that's the problem with these fast food places, right? They're Taco Bell, the shell,
Processed.
totally
Shell.
processed, all that stuff, right? You should try to eat more whole food. So if you have to eat at any of these places, get it without the complex carbs, which would be again your shells, into that your breads. Like get rid of those. Eat the meat.
This is the most important question of the day. What about Chipotle?
Chipotle actually is one of the few because you can. So anything that's done like assembly
I
line
love
wise,
Chipotle. Chipotle should give us gift cards on Coach Knows Best.
anything you can
We'll
make
plug you
via
everything.
an assembly line is good. And Chipotle is one of those. Like you can
Yeah.
do a burrito in there. Yeah, the tortilla is gonna have some carbs, but you can be like, yeah, double meat. I want black beans instead of refried beans. So you got to make the smart decisions. But the problem is education, like you were saying. These
Yeah, that's
kids
what
don't
we're
know
doing.
that.
That's what we're doing.
So how do they get to know that? Yeah, you can't just sit here and make excuses for them all day. Like it's okay to drag around Doritos and drink a Mountain Dew. No, that's bad. Moms and dads, stop feeding your kids crap after games. Instead of giving them Twinkies and Ho-Hos and donuts and muffins that somebody made, that's all well and good. How about like a protein bar and some water? They need to replenish what they just exerted. Don't drink, it's not okay to drink 5 things of Gatorade instead of water, but it's a sports drink.
Yeah.
You don't need that much
No.
electrolytes. Nobody does.
They drink like five, I had no soda, but I had 5 Gatorades.
You did just as bad then.
Yeah.
That's just
Worse.
as bad.
So much sugar in it.
So drink some water.
What about coconut water?
Eat some whole foods. If you're trying,
It's a
I
myth.
don't want
Another
to say
myth.
it's not necessarily a myth. It is hydrating. If
It
you
got
can-
it got hyped for a little while.
yeah, and it's good, but to me it's no different than drinking Gatorade.
Yeah.
Drink some water. Drink
Cool.
some water. Eat whole foods. Again, I almost said a bad word. Try
bad words here.
try to
Family friendly show.
try to eat some proteins in
Yeah.
every meal, and try to limit your carbs.
I think that the summary is that I think that sometimes people have the mentality, especially in youth, like they're kids, nutrition isn't that big of a deal. I think the other aspect is that, just go out and work it off, and on it goes. And so, even recently, right, because I really like food, I had made the comment that I would be okay with my existing body shape and working out if I could just eat whatever I want. But it's obviously, it just doesn't work that way. And so I think that people have to take, the amount of work that I see that kids put towards an abundance of other things, even sometimes sacrificing towards other things, but yet they're just so flippant when it comes to their diet and unwilling to do other things that it kind of trips me out. So we had a kid that he refused to eat certain meals, and it was like spaghetti and some different things on a night before meal thing that we were doing, and he was like 14, 15 years old. He was straight drinking milk, and he's like crying. Because I was like, dude, you got to eat this. And he's like, no. And he's like, he just drank like 3 cups of milk. It was a really weird deal. And the kid worked so hard. He's one of the best players on our team. And so, but he just, when it came to nutrition, he was just awful with it. The Takis, you know what Takis are?
Yeah.
They love it. So, sweet. Next question.
What should kids do between games at tournaments?
So let's do this. So what should kids do between games at tournaments? Number one, right? So they just got done playing, let's say, a 70-minute game,
Okay.
and they're going to play in about 4 hours later. What should they do in terms of taking care of their body, kids running around in the sun, different components like that? Even weird things, like I'm curious, like I always want the kids to take off their socks and to air stuff out. That might just be my psychological thing. But then also, what should they be eating, on and on. So what do you think about that?
First of all, nothing wrong with taking off the restrictive clothing and all that.
Yeah, but that's like, I didn't know if that was like psychological. Like I just like
Probably
to
is
air
a
it
little
out.
more. Probably is a
Like,
little
it
more
doesn't do
psychological.
anything.
The compression on there might aid in recovery, but
Yeah.
minimal. They need to rest, man. I mean, that's the first and foremost. They should not be running around, especially in Bakersfield, Central Valley, any of these or anywhere where it's hot. Get in the shade.
Yeah.
Get in the shade. Hydrate. Hydrate with some water. Maybe some electrolytes.
Like one Gatorade.
One Gatorade. You know the big 32 thing Gatorade. Yeah, like maybe half of that. Or if they get the G2 Gatorade, which are a little less calorie dense. Those are even better, or watered down Gatorade.
Wait, really? Because I don't even know there's a variety of
Yeah,
Gatorades.
yeah, there's like a G2.
G2?
Mm-hmm. It's a lower calorie, lower sodium. I'm actually not big on the low sodium, to be honest. The reason being is you probably athletes need more sodium to retain the water.
Between games?
Yeah, I mean, I know people even take salt tabs
Really?
as a supplement.
So what about for like a 12-year-old?
Probably.
Salt tabs?
Yeah, you probably could get away with it, to be
Really?
honest, yeah.
Yeah, that's good.
Because
How about
it's
this?
gonna
How
help
about
you
fried
retain
food?
water.
They go to
No,
Burger King.
A bad idea.
Fried
All a bad
food.
idea. All a bad idea.
What if they're doing 40% carbs, 40% protein,
Uh-huh.
and 20% fats?
Within a
At
fast
Burger
food?
King.
Yeah,
At
probably
Burger
not
King.
gonna happen.
Yeah. So cool. So
just because
eat,
those things are
what
gonna be
would you
heavy.
recommend that they should eat between games?
Yeah, something light, something that your body can tolerate. Everybody's a little bit different. I'll use myself for an example during a powerlifting meet, which I have to do my max squat, my max bench, my max deadlift.
Yeah.
So in between those, obviously I need to replenish energy too, right? I have 3 attempts at each. So I'm lifting 500 plus 3 times. I'm quite expended. So in between squat and bench, I'll eat a couple peanut butter and honey sandwiches on whole wheat bread. I'll eat some Sour Patch Kids for that quick glucose.
Caesar.
So
we love that.
and this is the point I wanted to make.
We don't
is
need to replenish. We're just fat dudes.
It's okay to eat something like that, a simple carb to get your blood sugar back up and get it going, but it's a kickstart.
I like that.
It just starts it.
Yeah.
And then your body knows, hey, I'm getting nutrition. Let me push some of this nutrients back out into the muscles.
Right.
You don't eat a whole friggin' thing of Sour Patch Kids. I'm literally talking like 5, 6, something like that. Definitely lots of hydration. Your good carbs. I shouldn't say there's no such thing as good carbs and bad carbs, but you can get some good carbs from fruit. So your fruits, your oranges, apples, sometimes maybe a little hard on your stomach, pears, things like that, bananas, good and bad.
Yeah.
But definitely if they're resting and eating, and they should eat like right after the game, right?
Yeah.
Because you don't want to have a super full stomach going into a soccer game or anything like that. So make sure you eat and give yourself at least half an hour to digest. How much time do you generally have in a tournament? And it varies on the tournament, how that tournament runs. Sometimes you have a lot more time, sometimes you have a lot less. If you have time to go out to go get something, you're literally better off at going to a grocery store, buying some Whole Foods,
Bring your own stuff.
and bring your own stuff back and do it that way. So yeah,
So-
I recommend some fruits for sure.
So you would say in between games, eating something like 5 Sour Patch Kids
Handful.
gummies, right? Get your blood
Yeah.
sugar back up. Drink maybe 1 Gatorade. G2 is best. Make sure that you're having plenty of water. Fruits. And then what about and then peanut butter and jelly maybe?
Yeah,
Peanut
so
butter and
the
honey,
reason.
some type of sandwich. Like what about like a Subway, like a 6-inch?
Right, I didn't come back into that last part. Something with sustenance. You do at the end of it, like all those things are fairly light, and you're gonna digest them pretty quick, right? But that energy is gonna go away. So you do need something with some protein in it, whether it be a protein bar.
Yep.
Those are pretty helpful and pretty handy. Something like a Cliff Bar is really good too. Or if you can tolerate a sandwich or something like that, sure. When you do meat. Or like a Subway, I would stay away from like the cured meats, your ham, salamis, and stuff like that. That's gonna be kind of hard on your stomach, hard to digest, as well as cheese. You probably don't want a lot of cheese in there. The reason I do peanut butter and honey is because the honey is obviously another a very simple carb that's gonna break down real quick and get back into my bloodstream. But then peanut butter is actually a fat source that has some protein. It's not a protein source that has fat. A lot of people confuse that. Like, I ate some protein, I had some peanut butter. It's a fat source, but the reason it's good is because it's fat, it's going to take a little bit longer to digest and give you a slow release of energy. And coupled with that protein, it's going to be more satiating, it's going to be able to sit in your stomach, and it's pretty simple. So I like those. That's not to say that's a complete list. it just varies on person to person what their stomach can tolerate. It's not an excuse because you need quick energy. It's not an excuse to eat poorly, but it is the time when you can get away with eating, again, that handful of Sour Patch Kids, maybe a little Rice Krispie treat, something very simple and sugary is probably going to help you out a little bit. Donut, cookie, not a dozen of each of those. And
I
that's
eat
the problem.
rows. That's how I measure it.
Well, that's different.
It's like I only ate one row.
Yeah, one row is fine.
Right.
But when you're coaching, it's a little bit different. We can get away with that. But for an athlete, no, I wouldn't recommend that.
So cool, and then so eating right after something to give you a little bit of like something a little filling. Some of these other things to kind of help you out that we kind of already went over. You know, do you know who? Do you remember Marcelo Balboa?
Yes,
the soccer player.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so he's an old timer, U.S. men's national team. He's legit. So Marcelo Balboa's dad coached in Southern California when we were kids. And a story that I had heard, obviously I didn't see it, but a story that I heard, he was so dogmatic about what his kids were eating and whatnot. He saw his kids. The reason why he's Burger King is he told his kids no fast food whatsoever, no circumstance can you have fast food between games. He's driving down the road. He notices a car of one of the kids that he coaches at Burger King. He goes inside the Burger King. The kid has burger, fries, and drink. He goes inside, cuts the kid, tells him don't even bother coming to the next game.
Yes.
Literally, the kid never played for him ever again.
I love it.
So, but I mean, but now Marcelo Balboa played for the men's national team on and on. His dad is super crazy. I met him like 10 years ago, and we talked about a bunch of different stories that I heard about him, and he basically validated every one of them. He made a kid. I don't endorse this. He made a kid strip one time. Everything, he cut him on the spot. Said, "This is our uniform. Take it all off." Strips down to his boxers out at the field in the middle of a game because the kid wasn't doing what he told him to do.
So he can't endorse that because he's a coach. I'm not one of your coaches, and I fully endorse that. Kids need to feel that these days because they're entitled.
Tell him, take off the uniform now. What?
Yeah, I mean that's a great idea. Throw away that kid's food if you want to keep on that.
Heard it here. That's endorsed from NSA Week. I think. All right, cool.
What are some of the differences and opportunities kids have today versus what kids used to have?
Cool. So now you're into your powerlifting stuff and everything like that, but in your youth you did play soccer. Really one of the reasons why I even played soccer was because of him. I looked up to him. I wanted to be his friend. We were talking about it earlier today. I really thought that he didn't like me until I was like 15 years old. He was pretty mean to me. So he like literally like he never let me win like a Street Fighter, no play video games, anything. So anyway, so 25 years ago, more. How old are you? Yeah, about 25 years ago is when you played, right? So in your youth, the opportunities that you saw of what kids had versus now, certainly we have other advancements in terms of technology or whatever it may be, but even just specifically speaking about opportunities, what are some of the big differences of opportunities you see kids have today versus what kids used to have? Like in your day and age.
Yeah, it's incredible.
Day and age, like you're that old.
Yeah.
In your day and age.
We're getting there. The opportunities that you're providing through your club that we see are it's huge nowadays. It's so much availability, so much opportunity for kids to even just communicate with high level players and see it online, and just the amount of access that they have to all these things is incredible. Let alone the features of competitive travel soccer, right? To be able to go and compete outside of your local area. Like that was one of the big things in our local area. We had rec league, and if you were really good, you could make like the spring select team, and you might go to one or two out of town tournaments.
Right.
And that was really it. I mean, there were some clubs that were very, very difficult if you didn't know somebody. And it wasn't that you weren't good enough, it's just that you didn't know the right people to play on those teams, because we certainly, and you know this, we both had played recreationally and competitively, and we'd play against some of these teams, like, that kid's trash.
Yeah.
Why is he even there? I remember the kid from Tool Time, I won't endorse who he is or anything about that.
I played on his team for 1 year.
Yeah, I remember that. So we won't say which clubs they are, and we won't dive them out. They can figure it out.
They're not in Bakersfield, that's for sure.
No, they are not.
Yeah.
And I remember watching him play and going down there, and I'm like, this kid he's garbage. His touch is garbage. Everything about him, like, he's a terrible player. Why is he on this elite, very elite, traveling club soccer team? It was money. That's all it was.
Yeah.
He was a name, and it was money.
Back then.
So that's how it was back then, is like, if you had a name and money, you could do these things, whereas
Now you just need money.
You do need money. Well, you need money to play, and that's that's the nature of the beast. But
Sure.
the opportunity for you to do more.
That's the thing, is that you're obviously, it costs money in order to be able to do these things, but while at the same time, if you wanted to play year round back then, you needed money. Now you could play year round, it doesn't cost as much money in actuality, but if you want more opportunities, those things are going to
Very
end up
much.
costing you more money.
You know,
Yeah.
the exposure that a player on one of your clubs can get by going to any of the various tournaments is incredible to what we had
Yeah.
to do. Again, we would have to have each other or our mom like, hey, come videotape this session or this game, and then go through just like, you had to get the right editing stuff and these tapes.
You got to get like a VHS.
Yes, you had to like have a
Physically,
double
like make
one.
multiple, yeah.
And you
literally
had to, like,
make
recover and
multiple
cut.
copies
Right.
of the VHS, put it in a big old envelope
With a letter.
right, with a letter,
Hey, my name's Tony, and I'm
and you
trying out.
send it into the wilderness, hoping that the college coach
Yeah.
will actually look at it.
Yeah, it did it even get it there, because who knows if that's the right address. The internet, like, this is not a joke, but like the internet was not there when
Right,
when I
we
was
would have to
going
get
through
that
this.
information from a book.
Yeah.
That might not even be updated.
Yeah, and then you call the number and like, okay, I think this is the right place, and then you
Yeah.
send it off to some secretary who knows, if she didn't like it, she'd never see it. So
Yep.
that access just wasn't there like it is now. Now, in 5 minutes, jump on my phone, make a video, send it off if you want. Hey, this is me, look what I do. But the game's changed from then too, right?
Sure,
Not only the playing of the game, but the recruiting game has changed, and it is still about who you know, and that's a good and bad thing, right? You
Sure.
can get them access by doing that, and a lot of coaches can. I'm not saying he's the only club in the world, but obviously, you know, we do know who's the best in the area for whatever. Hey, it is what it is. It is what it is. So if you want that access, it is certainly available to you now, which it was not back in the day. And so,
Yeah.
unfortunately, that sometimes breeds a sense of entitlement to some kids, and we don't want to get into a whole nother subject with that, but.
We're going to talk about that at lunch too.
Yeah, so you have kids now who, you know, haven't put in the time, haven't put in the effort, and all of a sudden they're entitled, like, why am I not on the A team? Why am I not getting recognized? I want to be on the A team, and not only do I want to be I want to play D1, and I also want to be prom king, and I'm going to play football, and I'm going to play track too.
I think
sorry,
you can
Jack,
pick
that
up
ain't
on
happening.
you can pick up on the type of household that we grew up in.
Yeah.
Because they've heard these types of things from me a couple times. One of the things that, and I don't want to talk about the entitled thing too much, but or let's say it all. But one of the things that I do find interesting is that when we grew up, I remember club teams that literally played in 2 tournaments for the year, and they played in 1 fall league, and that was it. And the fall league was here. I remember that there was a team that was called the Santos that was younger than you. It was older than me, younger than you, and they were the first team from Bakersfield that played on a league in LA, right? And so
Right.
they were the first team that, like, we're gonna take our whole team and go to LA. Our team, my club team, I know, and it was like crazy. Like,
Yeah.
dude, mom wouldn't even let us play club soccer
Right.
because it was too much throughout the year. So, and then this team was going to LA. Then my team ended up doing it, and I remember even as recent as 12 years ago, no club teams from Bakersfield played in the Coast League down in LA until they were 14. Now you have teams that are U9, under 9, they get no Bakersfield games, and they go every single weekend to LA. So, I mean, it obviously evolves. I think that it evolves for the, overall, it's evolved for the best.
Yeah.
The amount of opportunities and different things that kids have and being able to access all that. But I think that because we have a taste of each, then we're able to recognize, like, we get a little bit more chippy towards the entitlement concept,
Yeah.
because it was like, dude, we didn't even have all of this stuff, right? And that's what really, like, started this conversation with us earlier today, was like, gosh, dude, the kids don't even recognize what it is that they have, and they take it for granted. They come to, sometimes they come to training or they participate in these tournaments, and they really just don't put forth the work ethic and the passion because they just take it for granted. They think that because we're affiliated with Seattle Sounders that automatically they're going to give us an
Right,
opportunity,
right.
and there's no way.
No.
Talent's talent still at the end of the day. So, so that's good. I think the real question everybody wants to know is who is better, me or you?
I'm glad you asked.
Tell the truth.
I will tell you the truth right now, unequivocally. Growing up, who was the better player? It was me.
No, you're so crazy.
Now hear me out. I'm 4 years older than him, so there was never a time in our life when I was actively playing soccer that he was better than me.
Ever?
Ever.
What?
Now, if you did it on an age by age basis, right? So at 12,
Pound for
who was
pound.
better? Yeah.
Right.
At 12, who was better? At 14, at 16. Yeah, I lost that battle pretty quickly. Probably somewhere around the 10 to 12 range, about 6th grade, when I started kind of branching off and trying to play other sports and playing track and lifting weights and doing things like that, playing football. He stayed dedicated to soccer from then on, and I think at about 12, yeah, so is that right? Yeah, 12 or 13. I remember when I started in high school, that's when I noticed, like, oh yeah, he's going to be way better than I'll ever be.
Yeah,
and
wait.
part of that, and we talked about this, and I don't want to get too much into it, is because not only did he have the genetic potential to be better than me in that, for some reason, I don't know why God made him that way, but he also had a work ethic to work towards that. So at that point in my life, I would work hard on the field, I would work hard in practice, but my genetic makeup, and plus I was split between multiple sports. That was a big thing back in my day, was to be a multiple sport athlete. So I'm a 3-sport varsity athlete. Good. What does that get me now? A whole lot of nothing, right? I'm just kind of good at a lot of stuff, as opposed to being really good at one thing. So, I think certainly the age thing made a huge difference. And if at 18 and 14 was he close to that? I wouldn't say close to the skill level. He was at the skill level. I was just physically bigger than him, is all it was.
Sure.
And that's probably the only reason I was better than him.
Yeah, but I would just go play with you and your friends and everything. I didn't even know the difference.
Yeah, and that was a big thing for him to be successful too.
But wait, you're telling me that you think that at 18, when I was 18 years old and you're 22, that you were better than me at 22?
No, I stopped playing by then.
Oh, yeah.
I'd been in the military for a couple of years by then, so.
Yeah. All right, so that's the part I was tripping out about. So I would agree. There was never a point where you were playing and I was playing that I was ever better than you. I would agree with that.
Yeah, no.
So, like, I could go beat you right now.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah. All right, sweet.
Get the ball, get the camera, let's go.
All right, sweet. So that is it. I think the big thing that I'm really excited about on a sad day, Mr. Minetti passed away.
Yeah.
Well, he didn't pass away, but he had his funeral. He was a great man. I think that a great thing today, though, is that you are our first guest. We got it in the books. We kept it in the family for the first one. We have another guest lined up next week. It's going to be controversial.
Oof.
You'll have to tune in.
I will.
And so, but I like the guy so far. So he's been really good. He's in the soccer community here in town. He's moving, so it's pretty good. So give us the overall summary. Give us the 45-second, 2-minute, whatever you want. But give us a summary of what it is that you think that people, whether it be parents for their kids or kids themselves, what they need to be thinking as it pertains to nutrition, weightlifting, getting stronger physically, the value of that.
Yeah, I could probably sum it up in less than 45 seconds. It's all very important. So there's a famous bodybuilder named Dorian Yates, and they asked him kind of the same question: What do I need to do to be the best bodybuilder in the world? You compete against Arnold and stuff like this. How do you compete against that? And he said, well, it's 100% training, it's 100% nutrition, and it's 100% mental focus. So it's all of it. It's the whole picture. So which one of these should they be doing? What should they be doing in nutrition? What should they be doing in training? You should be going 100% all. If you want to be at that next level, really be at that elite level, and that's what you want, then be realistic about the time you have to put in. Put in the time in the weight room, put in the time out on the field, listen to your coaches, don't eat like a jerk, don't eat out every meal, try to eat good, and
There's value in it.
There's
the
definitely,
point.
yeah.
Not just something like, I just need to worry about how I can kick a ball.
Yeah, it's not all just that skill training, right?
Yeah.
That's important. That's paramount for soccer. It's a skill sport, but it's also goes hand in hand with that training and conditioning. If I can't run for the full half, well, then I need more conditioning.
Right.
If I get pushed off the ball, I need more strength. If I can't trap but I don't have a garbage first touch, I need more technical training.
Right.
If I can't recover, I need to look at my nutrition, my sleep. I didn't even mention sleep. That's a whole other episode. Get your kids to sleep. They should be getting at least 8 hours of sleep a day. Not playing for 5 hours on flipping video games or on your social media, talking to your girls. That's all a distraction. You want to be elite, you cut that stuff out of your life, and that's what you go for. Sorry you don't go to prom. Sorry you don't get to do all these things that everybody else is doing, but you also want to do what nobody else has done.
Yeah, I'm with
So
you.
do those things.
LeBron doesn't care about where Saturn is.
No.
That's the point.
Right?
Right? So look at
But don't be a bad student.
No, it's a waste. So I think that the summary is what I really liked about what it is that he said about 100% of this, 100% of that, 100% of that is that at the end of the day, what I believe that makes a good soccer player, right? You have to be, and I didn't invent this. This is universal. Technical skill, tactical abilities, right? Soccer IQ, whatever you want to call it, your physical abilities, and your mental toughness or your mental strength. Tactical, technical, physical, and mental. You can't prioritize one over the other to the point where you completely ignore one of them. You cannot ignore aspects of your nutrition and aspects of your physical weight training of some sort, right? So debatable about the extent of that, but if you look at all the academies in the world, I mean, some of the best development academies in the world, they have an entire weightlifting type of a program that it is that they do. So we shouldn't be the exception to that. So sweet. So thanks. Something I wanted to add, a quick note about my brother. He's a 20 plus year military veteran. I definitely appreciate everything that he's done for our country. I'm not ultra like patriotic, but I'm definitely a very proud brother, and I'm proud to be an American. So I really appreciate that. That being said about America, my question of the day is, since the United States is not in the World Cup, who is it that you will be rooting for this World Cup?
Good
One
question.
team, who are you going to be rooting for?
Man, that's too tough a question. Who put us out again?
Huh?
Who put us out?
Trinidad and Tobago basically put us out. I was going to say Italy, but they got knocked out too. This is like historic. Holland got knocked out, so I'm going with Spain. I'm going with Argentina.
Argentina? I might go with Spain over Argentina. Don't go for the Germans, I can tell you that.
No.
Can't
They're going to
do
win the
that.
World Cup. They're like the Patriots of it right now. So, sweet. So, the Eagles won. Sweet. So, that's pretty much it. If you guys have any questions, email me at ray7sanders@gmail.com. That's ray7sanders, like the colonel, @imag.com. Where can we find you? NSA, powerlifting, Instagram? Tell
Yeah,
us.
it's probably the best is at the Instagram, so it's NSA_powerlifting on the Instagrams, and slide up in them DMs. I'll hit you back.
Sweet. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you guys next episode 10.